I'm Gary Nickerson,
And I'm Quinn Taggart.
and this is Outside My Window. On September 15th, Ignite Atlantic held a social event where they invited partners and local businesses to a networking event. The night's special guest was the Honourable Susan Corkum-Greek, Minister of Economic Development, and she's also the Minister responsible for Nova Scotia Business Incorporated and the Minister responsible for the Innovation Corporations Act. We took a moment to chat with Wade Cleveland, Business Development and Events Coordinator for Ignite Atlantic. He explained how important it is to get back to the face-to-face connections.
Well, what we did today, and it's going to become a regular thing, but I find that in this industry and working in government and working with different groups, that we don't have enough time to get together with our partners. And so what I decided to do is take every few months, maybe 3 times a year, and have a social. Get everybody to get together here at Ignite, bring in our partners. So Ignite did this in association with the Western Wren, who's our next door neighbors here, and we work very closely with, and the Yarmouth Chamber of Commerce. And of course, we work very closely with them as well. And so what we did is we put together a list of all the different groups that we work with, including the residents here, chamber members, the CBDC, ACOA. We try to get every branch of government that we work with to come down. And on top of that, we thought it would be nice to have a speaker. And so we asked the Minister of Economic Development for Nova Scotia, Susan Corkum-Greek, to come here. And we had a really kind of an overwhelming success here because I was very excited to see. By the time we were through, we were over 50 people, probably upwards of 60.
Economic development is not a single source event.
Not at all. And see, that's the key to the whole thing, is that we need to communicate constantly with our partners because it is collaboration that creates innovation. Whether it starts with entrepreneurs who are interested in doing something, whatever that might be, getting the help that they need, talking back and forth about the way things work, whether they can work better in a certain way or more efficiently in a certain way. A lot is done when a bunch of people get together in a room and just talk. And it's amazing. It's interesting because it's one of those things that we've lost in COVID. COVID taught us that we can do a lot using things like Zoom. We can have endless meetings with people all over the world. It's not the same as standing in a room with someone with a bottle of bubbly in your hand and having a snack and just talking. That's where the collaboration comes from. We all work together, we do, and very closely. And it's amazing on the run of a day how many different organizations you will talk to. But having us all together and putting faces to the names and being able to be in that kind of an atmosphere really leads to something special and can.
Lots of people have ideas. Not as many people execute on those ideas because they're really not sure who to reach out to. They don't know where to get the resources. They don't know whether the resources are available. What do you say to somebody that might have a really cool idea but have no idea where to go for it?
Come and see us. It really is that simple. And see, that's the thing. A lot of people, I talk to hundreds of people in the course of a week. I really do. And people will ask me what I'm up to now. I work for Ignite. People have heard the name Ignite, but the next thing that comes out is, I really don't know what they do. Well, that's the thing. And I think as much as anything, my job in the next while at least is going to be making sure that everybody understands what Ignite is, that we are a rural innovation hub. And what that means is if you have ideas, come and see us. We encourage that. We offer mentorship. We offer opportunities to, even if we can't help you as in you come here and work or, you take a desk and you do your work from here, maybe we know somebody who can go to somewhere else. We can say, oh, well, we're not exactly right for you, but go call Joe over at the CBDC or go talk to Beth at Western Wren, or even things as simple as, because we have connections everywhere, even things as simple as, you know what, maybe you need an intellectual property lawyer. We have connections with Dow Law. There are amazing amounts of resources out there, and to be able to access those is very, very important, and it's worth a lot. And the first step is just coming through the door.
So Wade, if somebody really wants to reach out, what's the best way for them to do that?
Okay, it's easy. All you got to do is come here. We're at Ignite. It's if you've been in Yarmouth of a certain age. That's a good way to put it. If you're of a certain age, it's the old C.J. O'Hanley building. It's 210 Main Street. Walk in anytime between the hours of 9 and 4, and chances are I'll be sitting at my desk right next to the door. You can email me, wade@igniteatlantic.com. You can call me here. We have Facebook. We have LinkedIn. We're on Instagram. It's easy to reach out to us. Leave us a message. Reach out and say hi. Come over for a cup of coffee, and we'll talk to you, and we'll take you somewhere. All right, so again, just wanted to say thank you for all of you coming. We're going to start making these socials a bit of a regular thing, and so it's kind of exciting to have everybody here. I hope everybody had a chance to look around the place and enjoy. If you want to look behind me, of course, we have kind of a little video display with some of the stuff that we're up to and some of the partners and what they're up to, so give it a glance. We also have a podcast. If you're not aware of the podcast, this is my cheap plug. It's called Ignited the Podcast, and you can find it on all major podcast platforms and on Transistor. And if you're following us on LinkedIn, when we release a new episode, it's there. We're about 6 episodes in, and it's a lot of fun. So, and if anybody thinks they have a story to tell, we'd certainly like to hear it, because what we're all about is rural success. And so, if you have a rural success story, we want to know about it. So what I'm going to do now is introduce to you the CEO of Ignite Atlantic, and that would be Doug Jones.
I just wanted to welcome everybody here tonight. For some of you, it's your first time through, or you've come back through and said, this doesn't look the same as it looked 2 years ago. So we're pretty proud of the spaces we have here in New Glasgow and in Halifax. And like Wade said, we're trying to, our goals are to create innovative driven communities. And communities mean a lot of things. It means youth, it means industry, it means startups, it means community partners. So we've been focused on that, and it's really been an interesting journey. We're fortunate to have so many great partners, including many of you. We can't do it without the support of the federal government through ACOA and the provincial economic development. So welcome. Hopefully, if I don't know you, come up and introduce yourselves. And I'm a good talker, but I've been talking for about 5 days straight, so my voice is a little shot.
All right, so very quickly, we have a couple of partners in this particular social as well, and so I'd like to give them an opportunity to say something very quickly. One is the Yarmouth Chamber of Commerce, and the other is the Western Wren. So I'd like to invite, I know he's here somewhere, Rick Allwright. Yeah, there you are. He's hiding out. Rick Allwright from the Yarmouth Chamber of Commerce.
I couldn't remember who was first. Well, welcome to this social. It's been great to be able to get back into some in-person networking. The business awards, our annual business awards are coming up in October 20th, so definitely get your tickets for that. I hope to see every single one of you there. It's going to be a great night. Minister, October 20th, Yarmouth Business Awards. You are invited. Officially, yes. Thank you to our partners for putting this on. It's been great. Wade, thanks for reaching out and helping make this happen. And to the Western Wren for being a part of this as well and allowing us to be a part of it. Thank you all, and we look forward to talking more.
So now I'd like to introduce the outgoing chair of the Western Wren, Mary Thompson.
I wasn't outgoing fast enough, I guess. Anyway, you know, this is really exciting after 2.5 years to see this group of people. And, you know, over the last 2.5 years, nobody in this room has been standing still. Like, the work that's gone on behind the scenes to make this area just not only persevere, but really innovate has been truly amazing. And it's because of the partnerships. Minister, we're really glad you're here because we know your passion for economic development. And in this room are the solutionists. We're the people that can help you get it done. On behalf of the Western Ren, our staff and our board, we're so pleased to do the work that we do. And it has been a challenge in the last 2.5 years, but it's made us think differently about how we connect, how we do things. And I think that that's been really, really important. You know, highlighting some of the work that we've been able to do, and you've seen it up on the screen. You know, things like our connector program and our local immigration partnership. I mean, those are the things that are going to help us address talent shortages. They're going to help us allow people to come to our community and not just be here, but be a part of the community. You know, our Business Now program and our succession planning, because we want those businesses that are here and people that are kind of saying, you know, I really want to retire. We got people to, you know, come behind you and do those things. The other thing that I think is so important is some of the projects that we've been able to do around climate change and our energy retrofit. We all know that green energy is coming, and we need to think about how we do things differently. So, you know, we at the Western Ren have worked really, really hard to get some of these projects. And I can say as a board member, we have some of the hardest working staff going. And it's such a pleasure, and it's been such a pleasure for me the last 2 years to be their board chair. The other thing that I think everybody will be really glad for is the initiatives around broadband internet. By this year, we hope to have 97% of all households with internet. So that is, you know, if you think about where we were 4 years ago, not very good. So again, it has been a real pleasure. For the Western Ren, our focus right now is investing in our private sector, investing in our public sector, and addressing our talent shortage. So we're so pleased, and we look forward to, as a board and as a staff, to be able to do this for a long time because we really believe in what we're doing. So thank you to Ignite, thank you to the Chamber, and thank you to everybody who's partnered with us because, you know, this area rocks. It really does. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Rob Stevenson from the Western Ren. A former journalist and a longtime community development advocate, the Honourable Susan Corkum-Greek was first elected to the Nova Scotia House of Assembly as MLA for Lunenburg in 2021. She currently serves as the province's Minister of Economic Development and sits on the Treasury and Policy Board. A graduate of King's College, Susan spent nearly 2 decades as a reporter and editor for the former Progress Enterprise newspaper and credits her time in community journalism for igniting her interest in community economic development. Susan's professional experience continued to span several different industries, from tourism and culture to small manufacturing, and includes both volunteer and paid work in the Chamber of Commerce movement. She was a founding member of the Lunenburg Waterfront Association, deeply committed to the revitalization of the waterfront, and most recently she played a foundational role in the development of the Lunenburg Academy of Music Performance, an elite postgraduate center for advanced studies in performing arts. Susan is passionate about community-based housing solutions, job creation, local healthcare services, dignity for our seniors, and she always strives to keep well connected to her constituents. Today, Susan has made the trip to Yarmouth just to join us in our networking event, and I would like to thank her for her time and attention. And without further ado, would you please join me in welcoming Susan Corkum-Greek.
So you got it all in the first sentence, that I've only been a politician for a little over a year, and I can't hold one job. I move around. Good evening, everyone. To some of you who, since arriving, have helped put faces to names, and for those of you that I hope to have the opportunity to speak with after the more formal parts of this evening's program. Hello, and thank you so much for the invitation to join you tonight for the end of summer social. Now, as Maritimers, you hate to like say goodbye to summer, but I was thinking today that's such a fresh, beautiful breeze. And as my husband and I like to say, our people were made for that temperature. And I do hate to complain. Tell my kids not to complain, but a smile comes on my face when that air changes. As I continue to hear about the truly impressive work that's taking place in this region, it's a real reminder of how our vision and our goals need to align. At the end of the day, all of us want more or less the same thing, don't we? We want our communities, we want our businesses to grow, our communities to thrive, and the individuals who make up those communities to succeed. As many of you know, my department, Economic Development, is focused on creating opportunity for everyone. But not everyone's challenges or advantages are the same, and we must always remember that. Our work is broad. It spans from developing programs to help grow sectors of the economy to working with our RENs and chambers of commerce and organizations like Ignite together to support the business community and economic growth. Because the fact is that it does rock in Southwest Nova, and our province has so much potential. And Nova Scotia is growing because other people have started to see that in a very robust way as well. Our government is determined to leverage that potential and, as I say, create an economy where all Nova Scotians can participate, contribute, and benefit. And that's where collaboration comes in. And collaboration was very front of mind as I have these wonderful people, professional speechwriters who write for me, and then you see all my blue ink, and then I go rogue. And I was thinking about this concept of, I'm not Sarah Palin, for anybody that remembers the last time that word might have been used. But I was thinking, so earlier this year, I had the good fortune to attend an address by Colonel Jeremy Hansen, who is one of Canada's astronauts. And it was part of the H2O conference, which is an annual event, global experts, academics and researchers, entrepreneurs, companies of all sizes in the field of ocean tech. And I know I'm speaking to a room where a lot of you understand just how broad and diverse ocean tech is. For a lot of day-to-day people, Jack and Jean Camo, or whomever, ocean tech, well, what does that mean? Well, it is a very diverse space, from marine transportation to defense to marine energy, environmental monitoring, fisheries and aquaculture, and even marine tourism. And at the H2O conference this year, there were delegates from across Canada and 20 countries around the world. There were 22 firms from the UK that came over based on something's going on in Nova Scotia and we want to check it out. And what I found the most exciting was standing proudly together, shoulder to shoulder on the trade show floor or sitting in the conference sessions, were many Nova Scotian firms, including firms from right here in Southwest Nova. They were there because they are also leading the world in many of the areas in ocean tech. So I have to tell you, this Colonel Hansen, he was really impressive. And he was sharing stories from his astronaut training, because like an astronaut at Ocean Tech, but a lot of the training that they have involves using the isolation of water depth. So living in a submarine for several weeks. And of course, living at that depth, your body fills with nitrogen. So if there's an issue, you can't just go, let's go up to the surface, because it will literally kill you. This mirrors the isolation of space. Sounds completely unnerving to me, but I get it. It mirrors the isolation of space. There's even a compatibility, because if they left the submersible, they had to don the protective gear, the suit, and the helmet, not unlike you would for a spacecraft. It was fascinating stuff. Now I know there's a diversity of ages here, but for those of you in my neck of the woods, I mean, this is the stuff of Star Trek episodes, right? Today, space travel is real. It's not fully perfected, and it's not yet affordable to the likes of you and I. Jeff Bezos can do it. But the thing that really tweaked my interest about Colonel Hansen's address was his description of space as the ultimate collaboration. So he spoke of the International Space Station, where more than a dozen countries, including the United States through NASA, and 10 European countries through the European Space Agency, the ESA, Japan, Russia, and Canada, all came together to establish what is still the world's largest international cooperative program in science and technology. And Colonel Hansen argued that though it might be possible for any one of those nations to have developed its own off-planet laboratory, the work of the International Space Station is stronger, and its progress moving at a greater pace because of the collaboration on which it was built and continues to operate. It was also that atmosphere that permitted and even encouraged the space station's nation partners to carve out distinct areas of expertise. For instance, as Canadians, we are rightly proud of the Canadarm. And when it comes to the International Space Station specifically, today it's actually the Canadarm2. 17-meter long robotic arm that helped assemble the space station, construct it, and now is used for such diverse tasks, and I have to make myself notes for these kind of details: maintenance work, moving equipment and supplies, assisting with scientific experiments, and this is my favorite, cosmic catches. And that is grappling, visiting space vehicles and helping to berth them to the International Space Station. So the development of the first Canadarm was delivered to NASA in 1981. And the subsequent Canadarms have helped make this country, Canada, a world leader in the field of space robotics. Now, could another country have taken this on and developed a competitive space robotics sector? Yes. However, under the collaborative model of the ISS, that is considered Canada's area of expertise and allows the Canadian Space Agency and other players in our country to really focus their resources on that piece of the vast number of opportunities that are involved in the space industry and the science and development of space. So the ultimate result of that specialization is a more robust and successful global space sector capable of exploring space-based science and development and solutions to some of our planet's greatest problems. So what the heck does that have to do with community economic development and business in Southwest Nova? I like tangents, what can I say? It all comes back to that concept of how we work together and whether we too can create that collaborative model. And I thought it was so interesting. As I say, I arrived, 20 minutes, half an hour ago, and I'm talking to a few people, and I'm seeing that same concept of specialization, right? So the REN and the areas that the REN has carved out and said, we can help with these particulars, with connecting, with assisting with immigration. I was speaking with the folks from Nova Scotia Works who help people residing in these communities to train and in some cases even realize the skills that they already have, but for whatever reason haven't self-recognized, and help connect them to our employers. All of you here today are in the trenches, and how you work together and how we as a government work with you can, and only that, can determine the height of what we can achieve, especially in a province that is growing, especially in a province where we are looking at record levels of investment interest. Do we have our challenges? Absolutely so. But I would want to leave here tonight letting you know that as a government, we are here to work with you. In no way do we want to work at counter purposes. We want the same things. And we won't always, in any given moment, that doesn't mean we have to agree and we have to, oh yeah, yes, Minister. That's not what I'm talking about. But if we collaborate, we work together, you bring the expertise that you have from your corners of the economic development process, from this incredible, I won't call it a corner, tip or tail, I think we'll call this the tip, Cape Breton can be the tail, of our wonderful province. They're really, the sky, I'll get back to the space metaphor, the sky really is the limit of what we can achieve. So again, I thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. Before I would take questions, I really do want to, there's Mary. Mary, thank you. I understand you made a joke on yourself and said that you didn't get out fast enough. I really appreciate what everyone in this room contributes. But when we look at volunteer boards that, like Mary has served, much less to serve as chair, these are commitments that we just cannot get the kind of expertise, buy-in, and commitment that comes from folks like you. So I in particular want to thank you for your work with the REN. And with that, she tentatively looked to the crowd to see if there was a question.
So off camera, a gentleman asked the question on everybody's mind. What about the ferry review? People are understandably nervous and curious about what that review entails and how a decision would be arrived at.
The invitation to come here tonight was extended before the comments recorded in media that I understand have caused much concern and anxiety in not this community solely. It is much broader than that. I am an MLA for the constituency of Lunenburg. But I was saying by Sunday afternoon, starting Friday afternoon, or sometime Friday, continuing through the weekend, I heard from every one of my colleagues coming around from Digby right to my constituency, sharing their thoughts on this issue. I can't come here tonight and tell you that you don't need to stand on guard, because I've worked in community economic development. And you know what? I really hate to always put that community, because you know what I mean when I say that. But as minister, allow me this. When we say community economic development, when we say rural economic development, I fear sometimes that puts it in another category that in some eyes might consider that a lesser thing. Something less than bringing in the big employer with 500 jobs or some such. And I don't, as minister, nor does my government. That is, it helps us to understand what we're talking about. We're talking about something that has roots right in the ground of community, and with roots, the buy-in and expertise. So please do understand that. So I'm not going to stand here and tell you, don't you be worried, because that would be me talking down to you, and it would also speak in opposition to all of my life's experiences. We must always as communities, be on guard for the things that we know are important to us and ours. But that said, I do come here today to offer what the Premier said and was that he was disappointed in the results. Now we could very easily get into an argument of whether that characterization is correct or deserved. But what I know, and I did speak to the Premier about this extensively before coming down here today, he was speaking of, we had twice a revision of the projections for ridership. Twice. That's what he was reacting to. Wouldn't we have all hoped that they had been the higher? But that does not mean, it is not the same as saying it's a wash, that there's no value. Now, such is the very kindly and lengthy introduction to me tonight. I spent 20 years in the media. So after the Premier's scrum, after Cabinet last week, then the Minister of Public Works is at the mic, and she is asked, would cancellation be an option? And I have to tell you that Kim Masland has always been one, and remains one, of the biggest defenders of the need for a ferry service that exists in this province. But being asked that question, she felt that the only honest answer, and there's a like, haha, there's a source of 1,000 jokes, honest politicians. But she felt that the way that the question was asked, there was only, could considerations over time, but she didn't get to really say that, could it include a cancellation? And that is what has sparked the very reasonable concern here in Southwest Nova Scotia and further in Nova Scotia. But please know, when we have talked about reviewing any level of government investing the amount of money that we have in, the numbers are known, and it's an annual service, right? So it's not a 12-month-a-year service. Even if it were a 12-month service, you would want to be looking and being thoughtful and reviewing. So what I would say to you is, this is a lowercase r. Review as you would, I think, expect your political representatives and government generally to do. It is not a capital R review, such as we had a Crown review earlier this year. It was a platform and early government commitment that we would look at our Crown agencies to make sure that they were delivering. So it is not there. A concern, a bit of a narrative has resulted that makes it sound like at some future point this fall, there's going to be a ledger and there's going to be a review with some kind of outcome of magnitude in terms of the future of the ferry service. That is not reflective of what was said the other day. And in speaking ever so briefly to representatives here tonight, one of the things we have to consider is the picture of U.S. tourism into our province and into our country this year. I'm from Lunenburg. We too have been wonderfully busy. I mean, we're all small town people, and when the day when you can't get to where you need to go because, but it's a short season and we all go, but we're glad, right? We're glad when our businesses are thriving and busy, and it's been a good thing. And I see lots of smiles in this room, reflecting to me that acknowledgement. But I know in Lunenburg, as busy as we were this summer, that I did not see Americans back robustly. Quebec and Ontario in particular, other parts of Canada as well, but Quebec and Ontario were back in numbers. And that has led to a great season. And yes, we had this ferry that had not operated for some time, was finally back. But there's a picture there, and we know all of the reports in media of individual Americans talking about their horrible problems with our CAN Arrival app and all of these considerations that may have impacted what we reasonably might have expected. We have to have the fulsome picture, and we are committed to that fulsome picture. But not to suggest there is this impending deadline. We would do that because at the end of the season we will have the first numbers in a number of years to continue to look at this. But it is not reflective of a lack of acknowledgement of the importance of all that a ferry service has meant to this area of Nova Scotia. So I can't stand here today and say ferry for the next 50 years. I can't. But what I can ensure is that we will engage with you in all these areas as partners, as collaborators. It's a hard word for a Lunenburger to get out. This will be a journey we will make with you, and you need not fear that the sudden decision making that was evidenced under a previous government. I say that that's just historical record, not looking to make a big partisan point. That is not what you face. But I cannot blame any of you for reacting perhaps in the ways that we have seen. So I hope that is of some comfort. It is genuine, it is honest, but it remains a conversation. So whether it is your airport, your ferry, the various industries here, how we can work collectively to make a really great province a more prosperous province, to make the prosperity that we know exists here more shared across communities and people. That's what we're committed to. All right, so this is a social. So we should probably be social for a while, but I plan to be here if anybody, hopefully get to meet some some more folks, and maybe there'll be a piece of Jake's Panzerotti left before. Anyway, thanks very much.
Thank you.
It is an absolutely beautiful day to make the drive down the South Shore. Of course, I'm a Lunenburg girl, so I'm a girl from the Shaw myself, but a fabulous early fall afternoon to be here in Yarmouth.
One of the things that has made the rounds in the last few years has been the film and tax credit. And that's gone up, down, and kind of gone sideways a little bit. Now, Lunenburg has benefited quite a bit from film and film activities. Is it something that's going to be revisited in the next little while, maybe with the capital R review?
Well, it's no secret that our government, and Premier Houston in particular, is a huge advocate for the value of film production, both in its direct and indirect benefits. So we know, yes, Lunenburg has been very fortunate, but we saw what the filming of The Lighthouse a number of years meant to this region of the province. What we, I think, are particularly mindful of is when something goes up on the silver screen or you have a major Netflix or cable production, is that it is a way to promote our province to this enormous viewership as well. And in fact, this was proven, as I say, the Premier was already a believer, but on a trip earlier this year to Europe, the Premier of Nova Scotia was stopped in an airport by somebody who recognized him from The Curse of Oak Island. So, it was really the proof in a thesis that the government, more than a thesis that Premier Houston in particular has believed in for a long, long time. So we're we want to be very supportive, want to work with the industry, and I would say you will only see a continued less a review, it'll be a discussion. Again, we want to collaborate with an industry that we're very proud of.
I want to talk internet for a second, because certainly if nothing else, COVID has shown us that it's more of a necessity than a must-have rather than a like-to-have. What are some of the advancements that are left on the table to be done with the internet strategy?
So we know that we've known from government has known from the beginnings of this project that there would be areas of the province that, due to remoteness, among other factors, would be just completely no economical way to provide a service to them. So what we saw earlier this year was the rolling out of satellite support, the first phase of a program to address those Nova Scotians who would be waiting. Well, sort of, I don't want to say waiting forever. They were determined to be outside the scope of the Internet for Nova Scotia initiative. We will see a broadening in the coming months. Once this first phase, we have received a goodly number of applications. I'm updated on it on at least a weekly basis of applications to that satellite internet support. And we will continue to do that. At the same time, I do encourage those Nova Scotians who are still waiting to check in from time to time, either with their local MLA or to go on the Develop Nova Scotia website. Timelines do change, and we always think of timelines as getting longer, but no, in fact, there's a lot of work that takes place before the cable can be rolled out, and it's amazing that suddenly we get some of that pre-work done, and we can bump up areas of the province, But equally, by knowing how long they are predicted to be waiting as we look to further phases of this satellite, that they may become eligible at some future point.
Your background's in journalism. How did that prepare you for politics, per se?
It's kind of funny. I'm not sure that journalism did prepare me for politics. I think in some ways it reflects that I've had an interest in the political landscape for a very long time. What it did mean was that I spent certainly the first part of my career, and for a very long time thereafter, being very comfortably nonpartisan. Because it is not, you will know this of course yourself, it's not appropriate to have a known alignment and then expect officials to be speaking with you who might come from a slightly different corner. So in a sense, my decision to enter politics hearkened the end of that, keeping very much. Always very deeply engaged, very interested in what was going on in the political realm, keeping my vote very much to myself. And I'm still a believer for many people, that is ultimately our right. But acknowledging that I saw in the man who is now our premier a leader who could address the issues that I saw in this province, in my community. And I had a friend, frankly, who said, so we were talking a particular issue, I don't even remember what the issue was, but the thing that was thrown out was, what are you going to do about it? What are you prepared to do about it? And I realized sitting at my dining room table that night, my kitchen table, I should say, I started to ponder that. So that's been the biggest change for me. Did it prepare me? I will always defend the need for a free press I consider it absolutely essential to the democratic process. Will I always like the question being asked to me from the other side of the microphone or the coverage that results? I'm not naive about that either, but I will defend always the importance of the press to the democratic process.
Social media is a bit of a double-edged sword, and it gives people instant access, instant gratification, but also instant opinionated coverage as well. Do you find that it has a place in the grander scheme of politics in general?
That's a great question, because I do think that it has a place, but like all tools, they can be good. They can be used for good, or they can be misused. And it is extraordinary how some folks. I mean, we have never before had a tool where we can communicate with so many people in, if we wish, a real-time environment. Now, is a real-time environment always the best environment, right? Any of us who have ever sort of just in a moment said something and wished we could, suck it back into our mouths, right? It can be, as someone, a year into this particular adventure, it can be a source of valuable information, and it can also be, if you let it can be a source of hurt.
Distraction.
Absolutely distraction. In fact, I don't mind admitting that I have had to reduce the amount of time that I spend on social media so that I can ensure that my time is used in the best possible way for my constituents. So I may post because I have a message that I would like to share, may be very important to share. And social media, but the other thing we must remember too, that's actually another downside or a danger of social media, is that not everyone are on those platforms. So we cannot communicate in only that way. And that gets back, I think, too, again, to the role of media broadly, and certainly in terms of issues of balance and sources of information, because there is very little arbitration within the social media platforms. And again, I think that harkens back to, now that said, a podcast is a very new way for people to receive their information. I primarily worked in newspapers. Newspapers, I think, still have a role, but it's been a very changing landscape. So the landscape changes, but then I think the need for information is ongoing. The responsibility to think about and test the credibility of the information has never been higher for the individual. Working in media, and you'll know this yourself, you want to, you have a responsibility, I think, to check your facts. That doesn't mean that something could never, it's not impossible that a piece of information goes out that someone might question in some way. But we have entire channels of misinformation now that get picked up in a social media post and shared to a friend group and shared by the friends in the friend group and go out there very, very broadly. And these are real dangers.
Context.
Absolutely. Context is everything.
We want to thank Minister Corkum-Greek for the opportunity to chat one-on-one and hope that we can have her on a future episode of Outside My Window. Now, if anyone has a cool idea and is not sure what the next steps are or should be, reach out to Wade Cleveland and the team at Ignite Atlantic, either online via their social media, their website, or via phone to 902-746-0795. I'm Gary Nickerson,
And I'm Quinn Taggart.
and this has been Outside My Window.